And who doesn't like setting sail on their big long vacation of the year with bright red skies in the morning? If you've heard the saying, red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky at morning, sailors take warning, it is a real weather thing to be paying attention to if you're between 30 degrees and 60 degrees latitude in the northern and southern hemisphere. As our weather systems move west to east, if a low pressure front moves in from the west, it usually causes that particulate to be thrown up into the atmosphere, changing the color of the sky in the mornings. Versus if you have a high pressure front moving in, you'll have red skies at night, usually signifying no storms and good weather. And a little bit later that afternoon, right after that beautiful sunrise and bright red sky, we were blessed with some very good wind. In fact, it was so good it was right out of the direction I wanted to go in about 15 knots worth of wind. And if you've been wondering at all what kind of boat we're sailing, well, I got you. We are sailing a 1997 Beneteau Oceanus 381. Overall length, she's 38.6 feet long. She's got a waterline length of 32.8 feet. She got a beam just shy of 13 foot and a 5.5 foot keel on her. She weighs 15,000 pounds dry, with 4,800 pounds of that being in the keel. I figure by the time we're loaded up with water, fuel, we have all of our stuff in the boat, we're probably pushing closer to 18,000 pounds, give or take a little bit. Gives us a comfort ratio, if you're really wanting to nerd out on the spec info on that boat, of 22.2 with a displacement length ratio of 189. She does great in light wind conditions, and she still punches through and does it right here. We're doing about 6 knots, 6.5 knots in 3 to 5s. Um, the heavier sea conditions that you can see, we do find that we are having a reefer down pretty hard and pretty early. That's going to be the trade-off with the lighter displacement boat and how I like to sail her, but she does it. Good morning on day number 3, I think it is. About 5 something, 6:14 in the morning now. I left around 5:30. Sorry, hauling up the anchor. It's day 3, I think. Didn't get as much as a single drop of rain last night. No wind. I did feel the boat swing on the anchor at some point, maybe around 4 a.m. But right now I'm motor sailing again. Supposed to be some storms in the forecast, so we will be aiming for Pentwater, which isn't that far. Or I might sail through the storms. Hopefully not storms, but just like, rainstorms, heavy rain. Try to make Frankfurt. And here's some of the forecasted storms that they were talking about. So it wasn't too bad until I saw some of that purple there to the west on the radar. And I had a friend of mine that actually wrote me and said, "Hey, where you at?" After I told him where I was, and we both chatted about how I had nowhere to go, he felt like it was important to let me know that Sheboygan, Wisconsin was actually reporting half-inch hail and 50-knot winds. So I went downstairs, got all my follies on, strapped into the boat, reefed her down pretty hard, and settled in for my first of the season storm sail.
Well, I think I've made it through the worst of it. I think. My marina, or my next port, is right over there. I'm losing some speed, but I'm losing some wind too. We're down to consistent about 18 to 22 knots. That was fun. I had way too much jib out when I got hit, so I ended up pulling even more in. double reefed on the main, and or at least equivalent to end mast furling. And then I had just the ever so smallest amount of jib out. See if I can show this to you. Yeah, that little guy just weathered out 30 knots with me. And it looks like I tore more of the sail. Sweet. Okay, well, I can't figure out how to turn it around, so we're getting pretty shallow water, so I'm trying to do one tack here to stay kind of parallel with the waves kind of rolling over. Right now we're 2 to 5s, 3 to 5s, yeah, 3 to 5s, but we're down to 30 feet of water, so getting a little shallow. So anyway, I'm gonna deal with that now, but I made it.
And upon making anchor in Manistee, I made a stiff cocktail, well deserved one at that, and pulled out a little bit of our jib to inspect the damage. Fortunately, it was just a little bit of the UV protectant there on the luff that was ripping away, and the actual jib itself was still very well intact. I did bring a spare jib with me on this trip just in case I did tear something, but fortunately for the duration of the trip, never had to come out of storage. Alright, good morning. Finally made it out of Manistee. Had a couple small issues getting out with the bridges. But we're finally on the lake. Lake's starting to lay down a little bit. Near shore, it was still every bit of 2 to 4s. Right now, we're 1 to 2s. So it's melting out. It's just nice to go downstairs and get some breakfast here in a minute. Unfortunately, the wind is directly out of Frankfurt. It's exactly where I want to go. So we're going to do some tacking. And see how much closer we can get. And other than that, that's what we got for today. Bit of a casualty with the sail. So I'm gonna partially take the sail down, just not a big deal. And see if we can get that sewn up. And see if I can point up a little bit higher into the wind. Looks like I can. So, yep, see what we can do. Alright guys, see ya. Seasick. So, should be back in Manistee just under 2 hours. Try again tomorrow, maybe. We'll see. But the best part about the day was did get to meet up with Carrie. So once I got in, set the anchor, and got the dinghy off the deck, got the motor outboard on the dinghy. It was still probably gusting 20 knots in the harbor, so that was enjoyable, but we did get to finally meet up. And she brought me a beer, which was very much welcomed. We had a good evening on anchor, settled in for a night of sleep, but not without first seeing the USS Milwaukee right next to us. Started the day off with some breakfast and some coffee, of course. But before we were getting ready to push off for coffee, a boat project was going to come up. They say it's not cruising if you're not fixing something. So yesterday, during the storms, I realized my autopilot was like slipping. So I can kind of see the shaft that pulley slides on. It's turning faster than the rest of this. So I'm hoping a couple of these set screws just came loose. Or maybe there's a little like indent on the shaft there that they slipped out of. So I'm going to back those set screws out, take this off, see if I can find where it's supposed to align, if anywhere, and tighten it back up. I think it's kind of weird that there's not like a key or something in here, a keyway, but maybe that's it right there, maybe. Alright, we're going to get this off and see what we got. So that's what it was. I can see when I spin this, kind of hard to see there. there's a couple indents where those Allen screws set. So I just got to get this autopilot shaft to stay stationary while I realign that, reset those screws, and we should be good to have the autopilot up and running again, which would be nice. It's a big lifesaver when I'm solo sailing, so pretty important to get that up and running. All right, cool. See if I can get that fixed up. So, of course, I figured the best way to fix this was actually inserting a new key. But the problems I had was I didn't have my micrometer on me to actually measure out what size I needed. I didn't have a puller to get that actual gear off of the shaft. And your local Home Depot doesn't sell boat parts for autopilot systems. So, what I ended up doing is I went to the store, and fortunately, we were still in Manistee where we had Carrie's car. I bought two of the smallest keys I could, took my Dremel and ground it down until I could get it to fit, and gently persuaded it into the slot with light tappings of a hammer. And that seemed to fix it for the rest of the trip. So, we're going to make another push for Frankfurt today. We're a little bit behind my wanted schedule. I was kind of hoping to be up by the Beneteau right now, or even ultimately on Beaver Island. But we'll see what we can get done. Can't control the weather, and this is supposed to be a fun vacation, so no point in trying to kill ourselves, literally and seasickness wise. So, other than that, we'll keep you guys updated where we're at. And goal today is Frankfurt. We love Frankfurt, so that's where we stop. Cool. If we make it to the Manitous, cool. Gotta look at the wind forecast. There's favorable conditions to be anchored up there, and there's non-favorable conditions, so we'll see what the forecast update. And other than that, ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Be another $10 from all of you. Rocking again today. And better half at the helm.
What up?
What you
Try
got?
not to fall over.
Yeah, what you got for winds?
Almost 20 knots, which is what, 25-ish miles an hour.
Yep.
So, yep.
How you feeling about Frankfurt? Are we gonna make it there today?
Ready for a beer.
Yeah, buddy.
Yes, we are making it.
Okay.
No other option.
Yep, we're going for it today. All right, sounds good. Good morning. We are still anchored out in Frankfurt for the day. Carrie's with me, and we are dinging and running aground up the Betsy River. Very light groundings, but just kind of putzing our way up. There's no soundings at all in any of the navigation maps, so we're just kind of feeling our way up the river, and it's a beautiful shot. Just us up here. Should have brought a 6-pack of beers or something, but more water for Carrie.
Fun place.
But pretty nice morning. Got some sail repair today, and then wind should be out of southwest for the next 2 days. Hopefully, as I was saying, hopefully it lands just right in Mackinac. Should be some pretty decent downwind sailing. I think the forecasts are all southwest, like 10-15 knots, so can't complain with that. 2 pull-off points. We're going to aim for St. Helena Island. It's up north. But if we can't make that because of winds, or maybe we get blown off or whatever, then we're going to aim for Beaver Island. Beaver Island will be the next point. So after the successful dinghy cruise, we worked on our tans, went for a walk, and went to the cabbage shed in Frankfurt for dinner. Everything was phenomenal, but somehow we only got a picture of the key lime pie. Good morning. We just hauled anchor from Frankfurt, and we are headed northeast. Supposed to be some decent southwest winds today. That's what we're hoping for. They're really light now, so we're just going to be motoring and trying to make some ground and charge up some batteries. And other than that, you guys have a good day. We're aiming for St. Helena Island, but honestly, unless we get some really good winds, that's probably not going to happen. Beaver Island's going to be more likely is where we stop, and but we'll see how the day goes. Other than that, everybody have a good one, and we'll talk to you later. So, of course, our beautiful sailing did turn rowdy. And if you can imagine sailing at 8 knots, you would understand this photo. Unfortunately, wife started to feel a little seasick, but we did make it to Beaver Island, where we ended up setting anchor and weathering out a storm. All right, good afternoon. So, um, we are still here on Beaver, and we will be staying here on Beaver for today and tomorrow. And then, unfortunately, work schedule got to start heading south. So we are not going to make Mackinac this year. 2 years in a row, unfortunately. Maybe the third time will be the charm. But yeah, we got hung up with some bad weather there in Manistee, trying to make it to Frankfurt. Killed a few days, and then they're forecasting storms, water spouts, sporadically throughout the Great Lakes, but right here in the area of Grace Reef and the Mackinac Straits, which we need to go through both of those. There is no forecast of water spouts, and I don't feel like seeing what sailing through a I don't feel like seeing what sailing through a water spout is like. Doesn't sound like a good time. So I think after here, we're going to be heading south. The winds are supposed to shift out of the northwest. And we'll head to Leland, Fishtown. I think that's going to be the next stop. And then after Fishtown, probably anchor out South Manitou, I think, for just a little bit. We're going to see what weather does. And then after that, Frankfurt, Manistee. And then I'll drop Carrie off in Manistee back at the car. And then after that, I'll probably solo. Think about going to Muskegon next, and I might hang out in Muskegon for a little bit and see the Silver Sides Museum and kind of bump around there for a little bit and start my track home. After weathering out another storm, we decided to pull up the anchor and go grab a slip for the next couple of nights. And we're quite surprised when we found all this grass on our anchor. After the eventful anchor hauling, we decided to go to the Wild Strawberry Cafe, where I ordered the chicken and waffles and Carrie got the brekkie wrap. Both absolutely phenomenal. We went to the local maritime museum where we found a local boat that had its entire motor rebuilt by the locals, and that was quite the project. Of course, we had to learn about Protar and his home and where he is now eternally resting, and his story and what he gave to the locals in the island. And then when in Rome, you got to see the Rock. We went and saw the third oldest lighthouse in the Great Lakes. And fortunately for us, the interior was open, so we did get to go up to the very top, which absolutely had amazing views. It was a little chunky for me to get back down. It was a pretty tight spot. And then, of course, after a long day of hiking, we found the pub. went back to the boat for a smoke, and decided that was a good time to work on one of my winches to where I lost a piece in the drink. But look how clear that water is. The next morning we woke up, decided that we weren't going to make the push for Mackinac, and we were instead going to start heading back south towards Leland. Fortunately for us, Leland did have a spot available, so we stayed one night and grabbed dinner in Leland. And got some chubs.
All right, good morning. We are in the Beneteau Straits, beating into it, of course, as always. So far, the winds aren't terrible. Still got some sporty sailing. Right now, I'd say winds are, true winds, probably, I'm gonna guess 13 to 17, and with our parent, we're in the 15 and 20s. So, got some reefed main action again. Got a reef in the jib. Doing 6.5 knots with a good course. We are going right there.
So once we got to the island, we were excited about getting back on the land and doing some exploring. We started by exploring the old cemetery and walking the very long roads to South Beneteau Island and explorations of the old gardens and even some old farming equipment that was left on the island. We even saw some of the natural inhabitants of the island. Very long centipede. That was pretty cool. But then we had to go back to the boat and get ready for the set of storms. So we actually moved anchor, set it, and got ready for the next night. Good morning. So we are back underway. Just pushed off a little bit ago. Slept in a little bit. Our sleeping arrangements last night were pretty terrible. The winds actually shifted out of the east a little bit, which this bay is not very good for protecting you against east or southeast winds. Cheers. So, slept in some. Winds are pretty light, showing about 7 knots. Of course, it's out of where we want to go, so we're just motoring right now. Goal will be either Frankfurt or Manistee today, not too sure which one. Earlier, I was talking about anchoring out on South Beneteau Island. If you're ever going to go there, just keep an eye on the wind direction. As you can look at the map, we are pointed directly north now. If you have any kind of a variation of east or a southeast wind, you're not going to want to stay on the island. And what ended up happening to us last night was we were anchored out in a north-northeast, but that wind had shifted pretty east. And that caused about 1.5 foot rollers in the cove. So as you can imagine, being on anchor, sleeping in a V-berth, that did not really give you a great night's sleep.
Good afternoon. Dropped Carrie off of Manistee today. She's driving back home. I'm solo captain of the boat. And we have minimal wind. I did just add a bunch of diesel fuel treatment stuff to our tank, so I'm just going to run the motor for an hour, make a couple miles. But there's the lake condition. Not a whole lot of wind out here today. So, for the first time this trip, I've actually had the right wind conditions to try to fly this sail. This is called our AWA 80 to 120 or apparent wind angle 80 to 120 asymmetric spinnaker. It's a huge, beautiful sail. We got it with a sock, so we can like really quickly douse it if we need to in case of heavy weather. There's of course concerns flying it solo, small concerns, but I won't fly it at night. Be taking it down just in case some weather moves in.
first I landed in Liverpool, I went upon the spree. While money last I spent it fast, got drunk as drunk could be. And when me money was all gone on liquor and the whores, I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said,
last time you was paid up with me, you talked up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more.
once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead, or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. Oh boys, you wish that you was dead, or snug with the girls ashore. Among you see fair lads that listen to me song. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any horse. But get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.